"Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Don't bother setting the table for two." She said, "He's picking me up in 10. I was still holding the plate. Still holding the stupid reheated lasagna I made from scratch the night before because she said she missed real food. She stood in the hallway like nothing was wrong. Lipstick too bright, dress too tight. Not for me. I knew that instantly. I asked her who he was. She rolled her eyes. "Not everything's about you, Mason. A real man doesn't fear competition." That was it. No joke, no laugh. She stared right at me, daring me to flinch. I didn't. I just blinked, swallowed. Then I walked into the living room, grabbed her gym bag, unzipped it, pulled out the charger I bought her last month, the socks I washed, and the hotel key card she clearly forgot was still inside. I held it up. Didn't say a word, just watched her face go pale. She said nothing. No denial, no fake tears. Just turned back to the mirror and fixed her hair. So I said, "Then go find one. I'm done." She didn't slam the door. That would have required motion. She just left. I stood there, lasagna cooling in my hands, dog whining at my feet, and my chest hollow. Not broken, just numb. 3 days later, she texted me. "You were the real one." But I hadn't been sitting idle. I had already printed the photos, I had already spoken to her sister, and I had already planned exactly what I'd do when she came crawling back. You think this is about heartbreak? No. This is about everything she never saw coming. After she walked out, I didn't chase her. I didn't call, didn't even move for a while. I just stood there with the hotel key card in one hand and her lasagna plate still warm in the other. Baxter, our beagle, sat by the door, tail tapping slowly, waiting for the sound of her return. But I already knew she wasn't coming back. Not that night. Not like she used to. I didn't sleep. I just sat at the edge of the bed, replaying her words over and over. A real man doesn't fear competition. I kept thinking, what did that even mean to her? That I should have fought harder for someone already halfway out the door? That I should have groveled for a woman wearing another man's cologne? The next morning, I found her USB flash drive in the laundry room, the purple one she used for work. At first, I was going to toss it into her drawer, but something stopped me. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was self-respect, crawling its way back from the grave. I plugged it into my laptop, half expecting boring spreadsheets and tax forms. What I saw instead made my jaw lock. Folder names like Travel Chicago, Client Dinner, PH, Jeff birthday pics. I clicked the last one. Inside, videos, dozens of them. Some were from her phone. Some clearly weren't, but none of them had my face. In one, she was laughing, full belly laughing in the passenger seat of a car I didn't recognize. The camera panned to the driver, a man with a strong jaw, sunglasses, and the same watch she once claimed was a gift from a vendor. I kept watching, numb, as she leaned over and kissed him on the cheek, whispering something that made him smirk. He said, "Don't worry, Mason's too soft to notice." And she laughed again. That same laugh I hadn't heard in months. I closed the laptop. I couldn't breathe for a moment. Not from pain, but from clarity. Everything made sense now. The late nights, the work retreats, the gym bag always zipped tight, even the sudden need for space. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just opened a new tab, logged into our joint bank account, and took screenshots. Then the shared drive where we kept receipts and scanned documents. I downloaded them all. I started building my own folder, reality check, because if I was going to let her walk away, I wanted to make sure she never forgot who she left behind. And then 3 days later came the text. "You were the real one." No apology, no regret, just that one line. She thought that would be enough. She didn't know what I had planned. I didn't reply to her text. I just stared at it while sipping cold coffee. The same cup I'd microwaved twice already. You were the real one. That was it. No explanation. No. I made a mistake. Just that haunting sentence, like she was writing the eulogy for a relationship she murdered with her own hands. I knew better than to respond while emotions were still tangled up like exposed wires. So instead, I quietly prepared for the next part. I took time off work, not to wallow, but to act. First, I called the bank. She'd forgotten I still had control over most of our joint finances. I removed my direct deposits from our shared account and moved all my savings into a new one under my name only. I didn't drain it entirely. No, that would alert her. I left enough to make her believe nothing had changed. Then, I called the landlord. The lease was under both our names, but the next renewal was due in 32 days. I told him we wouldn't be renewing and asked to quietly go month to month until then. He agreed. I paid ahead in full. Then, I boxed up everything that was mine. Every book, cable, toothbrush, photo, gone from the shelves, removed from the walls. I didn't touch her stuff. I wanted her to walk in and feel the void. Not chaos, emptiness. That's louder. That hurts more. Her drawer in the bathroom empty. Her slippers by the bed alone. My side of the closet hollowed out like I'd been surgically removed from the fabric of her life. I stayed at a friend's for a few nights. Micah. He's the quiet type. Doesn't ask questions. Just hands you a blanket and beer and lets the silence breathe. I needed that. While I was there, I crafted the letter. Not a rant, not revenge, just clarity. It was 3 pages long, printed, folded, and sealed in an envelope taped to our fridge, titled, "You Wanted a Real Man." She came back on a Tuesday. I wasn't home, but the neighbor saw her pull up in a silver car, not ours. A man was in the driver's seat, stayed parked while she walked up. She opened the door, saw the living room half empty, and froze. He didn't follow, just waited outside like a chauffeur who knew better than to get involved. She texted me 30 minutes later. "Why is the house empty?" I didn't reply. The next text came 2 hours later. "Is this a joke? Where are you staying?" Still nothing from me. She hadn't even opened the envelope yet, but once she did, everything would fall apart. Not because I exposed her, but because I beat her at her own silent game. When she finally opened the envelope, I imagine her hands shook. Maybe she expected a tearful plea. Maybe she thought it was a love letter. That's the thing about people like her. They always assumed the game was still in their control, even when the boards flipped upside down. Inside, the first thing she would have seen was the printout of her chat log with Brent, the one she swore was just her gym buddy. She told me he was married, that they barely spoke. Strange, then, that she sent him a photo of herself in our bathroom mirror, the one with the towel slipping down her hip. I found the chat on her laptop's cache. She must have thought clearing the browser history deleted everything. Rookie mistake. Below the chat log was a map, literal printed Google Maps screenshots with red markers, the hotel near the office, the diner out by the lake, the apartment listed under Brent's cousin's name, and notes beside them. Dates, times, receipts I pulled from our shared Uber account. I even had the restaurant bill where she used our joint card to buy his steak dinner. I circled the signature. Her handwriting plain as daylight. But that wasn't the part I was most proud of. That came at the end in a paragraph she never saw coming. I wrote, "You wanted a real man." A real man doesn't compete for attention. He doesn't beg for table scraps of love while you feed your fantasies elsewhere. You said competition would make me stronger, but I didn't get stronger. I got smart. I told her I already met with a lawyer, that I'd requested full separation of assets, including proof of marital misconduct. I also told her that before I disappeared from the apartment, I'd stopped by her office with a copy of the hotel key photo and the receipt signed in her name. Slipped in an envelope addressed to HR, attention, conflict of interest. She worked in compliance after all. Let's just say company policy frowns on extramarital affairs between department heads and junior staff, especially when expenses are involved. That night, I turned off my phone. I left it in a drawer at Micah's place and went out to a small cabin near Lake Josephine. No Wi-Fi, no signal, just me, a notepad, and silence that didn't feel like punishment for once. By the time I came back 3 days later, my inbox had exploded. 9 missed calls, 6 voicemails, a chain of messages that started with panic, moved to rage, and ended with desperation. The last one simply read, "Please talk to me. You've ruined everything." No, Lana, I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending I didn't see what you'd already destroyed. And yet, what happened the next morning shocked even me, because someone else found the envelope too. Someone I hadn't expected to hear from. Someone whose voice cracked as they whispered, "I didn't know. I had no idea." It was 6:43 in the morning when my phone rang. I was half asleep, still wrapped in a blanket that smelled like campfire smoke and pine from the cabin. I hadn't planned to check anything for another day. But when I saw the name on the screen, Celia James, I sat bolt upright. That was Lana's boss. The woman who always smiled through clenched teeth at company parties. The one Lana once called cold-blooded in heels. She was the last person I expected to hear from, and her voice didn't match her usual controlled tone. It was shaking. "Is this Mason?" she asked, even though she clearly knew it was. "I got something in my office." "I think you sent it." I didn't answer right away. "I'm not mad," she added quickly. "But I need to know, was this meant for me directly, or was I just the one who opened it first?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "It was meant for HR. I assumed it would land on someone's desk. You weren't the target, but I'm glad it ended up with someone who might actually read it." There was a long silence. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, "You don't know, do you?" "What?" I asked, suddenly unsure who was about to drop the next bomb. "That apartment," she said. "On East Monroe, the one you included in your report. Brent doesn't live there. His cousin doesn't either. I do." My skin went cold. "I recognize the address," she continued. "That's my place. I subletted it short-term through a friend while I was traveling. It's been empty except for weekends. I don't go there during the week." My thoughts started spiraling. If she wasn't living there, who was? Who had the keys? Who had been paying under her name? Celia cleared her throat. "I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just saying Brent couldn't have used that apartment unless someone gave him access, and I certainly didn't." The next half hour was a blur. I sat there listening as Celia explained how company logs showed multiple entries under Brent's badge near her office computer. Her laptop had been accessed remotely. She suspected someone had been logging into her calendar and email using her credentials to book weekend retreats with someone else's access card. And suddenly it clicked. Lana didn't just cheat. She lied to everyone, even him. Brent wasn't just some random fling. He was being used, played, set up to take the fall if anyone traced it. Because while he thought he was in control, Lana had orchestrated everything down to the receipts, the bookings, the name on the lease. She built her little affair on borrowed identities and fragile trust, and now it was all crumbling. Celia asked me to forward her the rest of the documents. She said she didn't want to jump to conclusions, but promised to escalate it discreetly. Before she hung up, she added one more thing. "I don't know who your wife really is, but I think you just saved more than yourself." I hung up and stared out the window as rain began tapping gently against the glass. I'd uncovered something deeper than betrayal. Lana wasn't just reckless. She was calculated, strategic, dangerous, and for the first time, I wasn't just angry. I was scared. It was the sound of a suitcase scraping across concrete that pulled me out of my spiral. I looked through the front window and saw a woman standing at the edge of my porch, shoulders drenched from the drizzle, gripping the handle of a red carry-on. At first, I didn't recognize her. She looked smaller than I remembered, thinner, maybe. Then she turned slightly toward the door, and I froze. It was Kara, Lana's childhood friend, the one I hadn't seen in nearly a year. Kara was never the dramatic type. She avoided conflict like it carried a disease. So when she knocked, not lightly, but with the kind of firmness that says, I need you to open this door. I knew something was seriously wrong. I cracked it open. I'm not here to fight, she said before I could speak. But I need to tell you something, and I didn't want to do it over text. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Her jacket dripped onto the doormat. She looked around the hollowed-out living room as if searching for signs of Lana, and then let out a soft sigh of relief. I left her, Kara said. I blinked. You left Lana? She laughed once, dry and humorless. No, not like that. I mean, I left her apartment. I've been staying with her for a few weeks. I thought I was helping. She said she just needed space to think, to escape the pressure. She made it sound like you were smothering her, being possessive, watching her every move. I didn't say a word, just listened. She's good at that, isn't she? Kara continued, making herself the victim. I nodded slightly, careful not to influence whatever she was about to unload. I could feel it coming, a confession, or a betrayal, or maybe both. She's been lying to everyone. Mason, to me, to Brent, even to her sister. You weren't crazy. You weren't imagining things. She used my car one night to go grocery shopping and came back 3 hours later with smeared lipstick and a smirk. I knew. I just didn't want to see it. I felt the blood drain from my face. Why are you telling me all this now? Because I found your envelope, the one she tried to hide. She thought I was asleep and tried to burn it in the sink. She only got through the first page before I walked in. I read the rest, every word. I stared at her. So now what? Kara pulled a folded paper from her coat pocket. There's something else. Lana kept a second phone. She hid it in the lining of her suitcase. I went through it. I took the paper, printed screenshots, text threads, voice memo transcripts, but not just between her and Brent. There were other names. Multiple. She had been rotating more than one competition at a time. Most of them didn't even know she was married. Kara's voice cracked. She's not who I thought she was. I didn't come here to fix things. I came here because I needed to say sorry. And because you need to know, someone else knows too. One of the guys, the one named Eli, he figured it out. And he's furious. My heart sank deeper. Furious how? He wants to confront you. He thinks you were playing her too. She told him you were her abusive ex. He doesn't know the truth, but he knows your name and your face. A chill spread through my chest. So, this was it. I wasn't just dealing with emotional wreckage now. I was part of a much larger mess, one with strangers who'd been pulled into Lana's chaos like moths to a bonfire. Kara looked at me and whispered, "You're not safe anymore. I don't think she's finished with you." And I believed her. The knock came 2 days later. 3 sharp taps. Not aggressive, not frantic, just certain. I knew it was him before I even got up from the couch. Kara had already left the day before. Said she was flying to Arizona to stay with her sister. She warned me Eli would show up eventually. I hoped she was wrong. But when I opened the door, he stood there just as she described. Tall, well-built, mid-30s, with eyes that studied me like he was trying to decide if I was worth breaking something over. "You're Mason?" he asked. I nodded, forcing myself not to step back. "You must be Eli." He didn't answer right away. Just looked past me into the house like he was checking for signs of Lana. Then he exhaled and shook his head. "She lied to me about everything." He pulled a folded envelope from his jacket, the same type I had taped to the fridge for Lana, but this one addressed in her handwriting. On the back, a smear of red lipstick. Inside, he said, was a letter she gave him the night she vanished from his life. The same night she came back to mine. She told me you hit her, that you stole her money, that you were controlling, paranoid, the reason she didn't trust anyone anymore. I believed her for months. He laughed bitterly. I even offered to help her file a restraining order. I felt the heat rise to my face, but kept my voice steady. And now? He stared at me, then handed me his phone. "Play the last recording." I tapped the screen. Lana's voice came through low and smug. I don't care if he gets angry. Mason's a doormat. He always has been. He'll crumble like he always does. And you? You'll be fine. You're not even the only one. Just keep your mouth shut, Eli. You're useful. Don't ruin it. I handed the phone back. My stomach turned. It was one thing to suspect betrayal. It was another to hear it spoken out loud. Calculated, heartless, like she was planning a business deal, not shredding people's lives. I didn't know, Eli said quietly. She told me I was the only one. She swore she left you because you were dangerous. She made me believe I was saving her. I looked him in the eye. You weren't the first. You weren't even the third. He rubbed his face and leaned against the porch railing. There's more. She kept a hidden email account. I hacked it. She's planning to sue you. My jaw clenched. For what? Emotional distress. She's been collecting fake evidence, messages she's edited, photos she staged. She wants to paint you as abusive so she can walk away clean. Maybe even walk away with money. I nearly laughed. That's insane. She's the one who walked out. She's the one who cheated. Eli nodded. I know that now, but courts don't care what's true. They care what looks true. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he looked up. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to give you everything I have. Emails, messages, call logs, voice memos. I've already started compiling it. I want her out of my life as badly as you do. For the first time in this mess, I felt something unfamiliar. Not relief, not hope, but clarity. Lana wasn't reckless. She was strategic, but she made one mistake. She underestimated the people she played. I'll take everything you have, I told him, and I'll make sure it never happens to anyone else again. He nodded and walked back to his car. As I closed the door, I looked down at the flash drive he had placed in my palm before leaving. I hadn't even noticed it until now. Inside that drive was the final nail in the coffin, one that would unravel Lana's entire web. I didn't sleep the night Eli gave me the flash drive, not because I was angry. I'd already burned through that phase. It wasn't even sadness anymore. What kept me awake was a strange growing stillness inside me, like my mind was clearing space for the truth to finally settle. I waited until sunrise before I plugged it in. The folders were labeled by month. Screenshots, audio recordings, exported text threads. Some of it I had already pieced together myself, but Eli's files filled in the gaps I didn't know existed. There was a document showing she tried to open a line of credit under my name. Another had photos of her sitting in Celia James's apartment, the one Lana claimed never to have access to. And there was one video, shaky, recorded from across a parking lot, of her kissing someone who wasn't Brent, wasn't Eli, wasn't even anyone I recognized. A fourth, but I didn't forward any of it to Lana. I sent it to my attorney. Then I blocked her number for the last time. A few days later, her sister Natalie showed up unexpectedly. She was holding a brown envelope and a half-eaten container of lemon cookies, Lana's favorite. She looked embarrassed, like she didn't want to be seen on my doorstep. She told me I'd never understand, Natalie said softly. But I've known her since she was 5. I knew something didn't add up. She's always been good at spinning things, but this time it unraveled too fast. She handed me the envelope. Inside was a letter. Lana's handwriting. Only this one felt different. It wasn't arrogant. It wasn't manipulative. It was quiet. I never feared losing you because I never believed I had you in the first place. It read, you were always kind, patient, present. I thought I needed excitement, drama, fire. But all I did was burn bridges with people who built me homes. No apology, but for once, maybe honesty. I didn't need to respond. I didn't need her to hear forgiveness. What I needed was peace, and this time, I had it. 2 months later, I moved. New apartment, new neighborhood. I even picked up running, something I used to roll my eyes at, but every mile felt like another piece of her fell off me. Lighter, freer. The flash drive locked in a drawer. Not because I needed revenge, but because it reminded me how far I'd come. I didn't need to destroy her. I just needed to let her fade. And she did. Sometimes the best revenge isn't noise. It's rebuilding your life so quietly that they don't even hear you leave. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you. I hope it gave you something. Whether it was closure, clarity, or just a good reason to trust your instincts. Tell us in the comments which a moment in this story shocked you the most, or which one felt the most real to you. We read everything. Don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more true-to-life stories like this. And remember, silence can be the loudest answer.